Another post about the virus? Well, not quite. This has more to do with people than it does the virus. This video is about thinking. A certain kind of thinking, which is called critical thinking. A lot of you will think this is something that is for only elites or intellectuals. But what it really is about is the kind of thinking that you'd want to use if you wanted someone to do your brain surgery on your brain. You wouldn't want a surgeon to make his decisions on anger or his politics. I think that the answer for most of you would be no. Most of the other videos that are on this channel deal with issues that don't have a clear solution. There are arguments for both sides. The coronavirus, to me, is the best example of something where the stakes are obvious and the dangers are clear. Either you do your best to keep as many people alive as possible, or you don't. That has to be the goal. Yet many people, at least at the beginning of this pandemic, gave in to their anger and denied the fact that it was necessary to consider social distancing and other measures that now are considered necessary by many people. I know of at least 4 people who describe the virus as just another flu, which would play itself out just like any flu we'd experienced so far. And it turns out that can be true, but not always, as we've seen in states like New York. You can't ignore a lot of people dying, or you can, but, well, I won't go into how horrible that is. I'll leave it up to you. Some people I know have actually said that it was being overblown and that it wasn't the crisis that everyone was making it out to be. This was said with anger and a bit of self-righteousness, as though the people who were pushing social distancing were just trying to be contrary, or their politics were wrong. On one of my posts on this channel, I heard from a rather confused woman who began talking about 2020 election and the conservative talking points such as the world government theory. When I pointed out that this had nothing to do with the coronavirus and that she wasn't helping, I stopped hearing from her. And then there was a man who, on the same post, left a note saying, "Effing fear-mongering." I wonder what he's thinking now if he watches the news about New York and Louisiana. While we have a low number of cases where I live, a conservative coworker of mine became angry when he found that, despite the low number, the mayor of my city had shut down all restaurants and bars in the late to early March. It was purely based on her discretion, and the decision was made due to consistent promotion of social distancing. He also told me that he thought that Donald Trump was finally going to slap Dr. Fauci, who he obviously believed was being disobedient and arrogant because he wasn't in lockstep agreement with the strangely shifting view of the seriousness of the virus promoted by the White House. Our case numbers are still low, which is why I have to consider that it might be the result of early social distancing. Since we're not sure how this virus works, I find my coworker's attitude irrational and wise at best. Today is April 20th, and we've been told we are reaching a crisis point. I will admit that I was not certain what course this would take a couple of months ago, nor do I know what will happen in the future. Even Dr. Fauci has lowered his estimates of the death rate from a couple of 100,000 to approximately 60,000. Since I always emphasize thinking first in these videos, I was obligated to consider that it might not be what people said it was going to be, and we'd simply experience another Ebola-like pandemic. But a thoughtful evaluation of the situation also brings an obligation to err on the side of caution, something I would consider to be something any sane person would do. This isn't the first pandemic we've experienced, and there are patterns that are well established. Now, even if the naysayers turned out to be completely right, obviously not the case if you look how many people have died in New York and in the country alone, would you feel right not erring on the side of caution? Could you live with yourself if things went wrong? Obviously, some people, as I've described above, don't feel that level of conscience or guilt. I will now make the offensive suggestion that critical thinking I was referring to before represents sanity. Why would you substitute your anger or even your political opinions for a clear, humane decision involving the health of others and possibly your own health or the health of those you love? Have we gone that far wrong? I feel firmly that our biggest enemy during this crisis and in general is the current tendency to hear something or feel something and immediately believe it's true, and believe firmly that any disagreement comes from stupidity or a nasty contrary streak, not a simple difference of opinion. This is true of both Democrats and Republicans, and is totally un-American. There is always a difference of opinion, and always has been. It's the basis of the American system. If you've ever read about the founding of our country and the reason for the formation of the Constitution, you know that supporting competing views is part of our government's job. It's what makes us free and democratic. Anything else is a clear violation of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and has the potential to lead to a dictatorship, meaning that it's not American. We go through periods, as we have lately, where party loyalty becomes more important than the Constitution. But from my point of view, these are dark, un-American times in our history. Of course, it's hard to know what damage has been done by people who didn't start washing their hands and take precautions back when this all started. But it has to be significant. Studies of the opening of the beaches in Florida and the effects of the Mardi Gras celebrations in New Orleans suggest that. But this isn't really about the coronavirus. The virus is just the best example of something where opinion and feelings versus knowing for sure just doesn't cut it, in my view. This video is about the loss of critical thinking, the kind of thinking that protects you. You can look at critical thinking as look down your nose intellectual crap, or you can ask yourself who you'd want to do your brain surgery, a person who you like, who has strong opinions, or an expert in brain surgery. People have forgotten that for many things in life, you have to know what may be a threat and what isn't. Thank you for listening.